Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton,
Hey guys, I'm Chris Kirkpatrick.
and this is a super episode. And Lois.
It's a very super episode, right?
Yeah, just kicking it right off. Like, how cool was that show?
I will say that kind of like the way that I see Superman a lot of the same way that I see Spider-Man, that it's been reinvented so many times that it almost becomes kind of boring. And so
Yeah.
I walk into it already kind of with my mind made up that it's just probably going to underwhelm me. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe I should, look at every show that I step into with fresh eyes. But I will say, however, that I'm very happy to be proven wrong. Right? This really was Superman and Lois definitely lived up to the hype.
I think so. And I loved how they say, oh, it's Superman in a different way. I'm like, really, how many different ways can you tell it? But it really was different. Because I think this is the first time I think that they've had two sons. And it's like, okay, I could see the drama of two sons, growing up in a big metropolis, literally, and then moving into this small farm town.
Right.
And having to, adjust to that.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
cool.
I really think about how they've really told this story of Superman. We've already seen the prequel regarding Superman and his youth in Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
We've certainly beaten the horse to death in regards to Superman and his life while he's fighting crime in Metropolis and getting to know Lois. But we've never seen Superman as being really the husband and father that we see here in Superman and Lois. And so I really do find that to be an engaging storyline. I think one of the reasons why it grabbed me the way that it did is because I'm both a husband and a father of two kids. And I think that I can relate. Not that I'm Superman or anything like that, but I think there, in many ways, it really humanizes him, right? It makes him very relatable. That there are times when you can literally do anything, and yet you struggle to have a conversation with your kids, right? And so I found that to be a very interesting direction that they took the show. So
I did too, and of course, our good friend Danny has an opinion that, I mean, we might not agree with, but hey, everybody has their own opinion. Superman hasn't been any good since Christopher Reeves. I agree, kind of. I saw an episode last night, and it was disappointing. So people are going to have different opinions.
They are.
That's okay.
And I will first of all agree with Danny in that every Superman that I've ever seen is pales in comparison with Christopher Reeves. He was the Superman that I grew up with in the 80s, and I think that every time I look at a Superman, I certainly judge them against who Christopher Reeves was. In my head, he was Superman, and yet I do feel like in this case that I think that this new show kind of makes me appreciate Tyler Hoechlin and his role as Superman, maybe in a way that I hadn't appreciated it that much before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was cool to see Smallville again. I've always talked about, we didn't get the Smallville house. And it's like, well, I mean, I get it, but I mean,
I know how heartbroken you were about that, right? That you had really wanted to see that.
It was just kind of like, okay, this is Smallville 2, but in a different way. And I thought that would have been kind of cool. And it still is that in a lot of ways, but it was a little disappointing knowing that they used that same house and that same farm for the last 2 or 3 appearances at that, area.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's different, but that's okay. They did a good job of making it what it was and saying, oh, okay, this is a farm, this is a house. I mean, it was good. And having Alana on screen again, I thought was cool. People
Yeah.
are going to have their opinions, and of course, in Smallville, she got to be kind of annoying when the center, the center of the show was like, "Oh no, is Lana safe?" It's like it doesn't matter. Like she's not important anymore. But it is nice to have that.
Right. I think that we're gonna find that there are a lot of things that may be somewhat different,
Mm-hmm.
especially post crisis. And I know we're gonna get to the end and talk a little bit about who the big bad is. We
Yeah,
won't quite reveal that here, but I think
it's
that
it's Bebo.
it's
Just
Bebo.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, Bebo is badass. If you didn't know that already, and he
absolutely.
fights like nobody else. But no, I think that what were some things that kind of I think surprised you when you saw the
Hmm.
episode?
I was surprised because I knew they had two kids. Now I know pre-crisis there was only one. There was one baby in crisis, which was John Kent. Like that was what we're used to in comics and every other version of the story. And then of course you have Connor Kent, who was the clone, but he's not in this. We see him in Titans, but it's completely different. But those are the two like Superboys that we know. And then they introduce this new kid. It's like, oh, they have two sons because that was an effect that Crisis had.
Right.
And I'm sitting here wondering, okay, which kid or both are going to have powers? Because we know John Kent as Superboy. So the whole time you're thinking he has powers, and then boom, they flip the script on you, and then the other kid has powers, and John doesn't. And
Right.
that was kind of surprising. It was
Right.
interesting.
It was interesting because you know John Kent he appears to be like if there was somebody who was going to have powers, it would be him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's athletic. He's good looking. He's popular. It's one of those situations where you think, okay, he really does take after his father, and
Right.
yet we realize later on that it is the son with the emotional trauma um, and the anxiety disorder that ultimately is the one that has the power. Now we don't know necessarily if only one of them has powers and the other
Right.
one doesn't, right? Um, as we know, oftentimes, powers don't always come out at the same time. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, um, it's that little ironic twist I think they're playing around with.
I think I want to make a prediction now and say that by the end of the first season that John Kent is going to have powers, and it may be one of those situations like it was in the Flash that we saw in season 5, where Nora finds out that her mom had placed like a blocker in her to prevent the powers. Maybe that happened with him, but not an intentional like let me block your powers, but maybe somehow at birth there was a shard of kryptonite that's like wedged in his spine or something, and like it's just enough to keep his powers away. I think something like that's going to happen where they're going to
Okay,
reveal like some big revelation, like, oh my gosh,
right.
you have powers, but
I
nobody
do
knows.
think, yeah, that would certainly be an interesting direction for them to go and take it. I think that
Mhm.
they're going to definitely play on the twin aspect of things.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very classic trope that when you
Mhm.
have twins, though they look alike, they behave differently, and in many ways they're competitive with each other. Right. And I think that one of the first wedges that we're going to see kind of come between them is this this kind of jealousy over
Mhm.
having abilities and maybe even the attention that one gets from their father as opposed to the other.
Because yeah, you obviously have to think that he's kind of torn at some point between these kids because the one is doing all the things that he saw himself doing and that he did, like football, this and that. He's popular and and then the other kid has powers. He's going to
Yeah.
need Superman to lead him and show him how to do this. You don't need to see him in math class seeing like the hot substitute, like catching the place on fire with his eyes. You know, he needs
Well, I
to
mean,
learn the
I think that
responsibility.
I think that would be fun anyway.
It would
But
be.
I do think though that it is one of those. It is one of those things that um, it's gonna be cool just to see how it develops. I did want to
Mhm.
ask you, as far as the way that it began, I um, I typically don't like when they spend a lot of time essentially narrating to us what's happened
Yeah.
as a way of um, kind of exposition in showing us what's happening. I'd rather see it than
Right. Yeah.
being told about it, because they really do give us a big information dump
Oh
of what's
yeah.
happened. However, were there any moments in that kind of like that introductory part that that either made you think or that kind of got your attention?
I mean, I was just trying to take it all in, I guess. I don't know if there was any particular moment that was like, oh, wow, that happened. I do kind of like the little highlights of like, oh, this happened, like the kind of overview of it. And it was nice. But as far as the narration goes, I don't think anything really stood out like that really caught my attention.
I think there were a couple of moments for me
Okay.
that kind of got my attention and opened my eyes a little bit. I think there was that moment where we see Jonathan Kent, right? And there
Mm-hmm.
is young Clark up there hanging the banner there in Smallville, and we see Jonathan Kent, and we know, I think that we know that Jonathan Kent dies, right?
Right.
But seeing it happen right there, uh, again, I think it reminds us
Yeah.
of that. Um, for a show about a man who is invulnerable and can't be hurt, uh, Superman seems to be surrounded by loss, right? That seemed to be or loss and pain seems to be sort of a constant in his life.
Well, Denny makes a good point. You know, they took a real step backwards with the introduction. We know the story, and we could have just jumped in with his connection to Kara. And I kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah,
is this going to be connected to Supergirl? Because so much of Superman has changed after Crisis. I mean, his mother's dead. Spoilers, everybody. Martha Kent dies. Um, I'm really subtle with that one.
I know,
Um,
I know. Just threw it out there.
but all this stuff has changed. He has two sons, and these kids are like 16 years old. So this whole history has changed because at the end of Crisis, there was an infant child going into Crisis, there was an infant, and then that raises the question to me of like, what timeline is this show in? Is it 15 years from present day, or is it the new current present day for them? In the last 15 years changed,
Right.
and if that's the case, how much of Supergirl changed?
Exactly. I think that what we see here is this is a show that's taking place post crisis, but it's taking place also 15, 16 years in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that said, yes, I thought that Kara's absence, like you would have thought that she might have shown up in some way for the funeral, right?
Yeah.
Now, to me, that would have made sense. It's kind of surprising a little bit that they didn't. I think that they were working to try to set up a very clear. They wanted to make sure if there was any doubt in our minds about the kind of show we were watching,
Mm-hmm.
they set that up. And so, even the idea that they bring up the fact that that the other twin has mental problems, right, or anxiety.
Right.
I thought that was it did set a certain kind of tone.
Mm-hmm.
For as optimistic I usually think of Superman as being, right? Um, there were a lot of really there was a lot of darkness that we
Yeah.
see in that opening part. Even you have Lois and Clark at the Daily Planet, and the first big thing you get revealed about is they've both been fired from their jobs.
Yeah. See, I missed that part. I know that I saw Clark being fired, but I missed the part where Lois was also fired. I just assumed it was just Clark for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
both of them have been
Mm.
fired, and so which is amazing considering they essentially call Lois Lane the greatest reporter on the planet, or maybe they meant at the planet. I don't know whether
Mhm.
it is, but it does. First of all, it explains why it was a lot easier for them to leave Metropolis
Yeah,
and go to Smallville. Um,
that's
so
true.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The show could be. I do agree, kind of like they gave us maybe a little too much in the beginning. Like you didn't necessarily need to see his father, having the heart attack and dropping dead, and like you didn't really need to see all that. We've seen it a million times, and that's why it was kind of refreshing in the new Spider-Man movies. How there's no Uncle Ben, and like, oh my gosh, Uncle Ben is dead, and none of that is there because we all know at this point that it happens.
Right.
But going forward, it's like I'm interested to see how the story plays out. Will there be crossovers? I know there's not going to be any like big crossover event this year, but we know that there's going to be that small crossover with kind of technically a Flash crossover into Stargirl, like we talked about last week. But will there be any other sort of like how cool would it be to see Flash in Smallville? Or even Batman or Batwoman come to Smallville and like, oh, this guy's like the Joker is here or whatever. I think it'd be cool. And hopefully they do that.
I'm sure that they, considering we know that that Lex Luthor is involved somehow, or a Luthor is involved somehow in this whole thing. I'm certain that it's not going to just involve them in Smallville, right? It's going to be a much bigger picture.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like Friends or Seinfeld with a cape. I'm interested to find out what happened to John Cryer's Lex Luthor because I haven't been keeping up with Supergirl, so I don't know if he's been in, if that show has it started for the season yet. I know Batwoman is going, and I know now Superman and Lois is going, and Flash comes out this Tuesday. It's like 3 days away.
I have kept up with Supergirl, and as of the end of the series, before they took their break, John Cryer was still essentially the president, and idolized the world over, right? And so, I mean, they looked up to him as though you were like, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I just kind of, it's interesting to see whether or not, whether John Cryer is going to end up showing up in this, or if he'll be related into it somehow. That still remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of connection because, we know that post-crisis he exists. It's not like that part of him changed.
Right.
And so there has to be something there, I think. Or maybe what if he wasn't like Luthor at all? What if he wasn't like Sauron? It was just some like bodyguard clone guy. I don't think it goes that deep. But
no.
Who knows? No. I mean,
but I do think that certainly they're playing with our expectations a little bit. I think that again, a lot of us know what to expect when we look at Superman, and I think that there is some familiarity in it, and yet I think there's also there are definitely going to be some surprises in all of this too.
I would love to see some Titans. Kind of maybe you see Nightwing pop up one day in Smallville.
Yeah. I mean,
Danny says again, this version of Lex Luthor is truly the greatest and arguably the deepest yet. I mean, if they're talking about John Cryer's, I believe, and I think it is like maybe not the best ever, but it definitely is the deepest as far as character depth and range and everything.
Yeah, it's funny this came up because my wife and I were talking about it, and we're still, original Superman fans, and so the original. It escapes me the name of the guy who played it in the original Superman films.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
I still feel just like Christopher Reeves is the epitome of Superman. Gene Hackman is the epitome of Lex Luthor. And yet I do think that John Cryer has done a really an amazing job in kind of adapting himself into that role, right? And so I like that. I wasn't sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure if Danny was referring to the version of Lex Luthor that was kind of featured here on the show with the mechanized armor. Whether that was something. Yeah, okay.
Cryer is superb. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, but I was sure. Yeah, he is.
I think we are. I think we are team Crier on this one.
And
So
I would hate to see him leave and not be involved in the Arrowverse going forward after Supergirl.
I agree. I think that would be a missed opportunity for them to bring on someone that is kind of established and that we already know.
And I think he would be perfect for Legends, a Legends
Yeah.
villain. I mean, he the Book of Destiny that he rewrote himself and all this stuff that he's done. Once Supergirl's over, I mean, where else would he go? It seems like he would be the one to try to escape some sort of fate or punishment,
Right.
by jumping into space and time somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does certainly, he is relatively old even by, Supergirl's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even as of Crisis, kind of middle aged at least. So he would be considerably older by this point here in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see the relationship between who this Captain Luthor is, and who and kind of the relationship to the Lex Luthor that we've kind of gotten to know.
Now, see, I took it as that's what confused me because I took it as the person there at the end that we see that you just referred to as Captain Luthor. He's also notably bald. You don't see his face, but you see the back of his head as he walks like away. And so, is this Lex? Is this Alex?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know whether there's time travel involved. We don't know whether this is an alternate reality Lex.
Is it Mark? Not Mark Guggenheim. Is it Michael Rosenbaum? Ooh, probably not.
I don't think so. Actually, I looked it up. It's a guy named Wally Parks.
Too bad.
And it's played by an African American. And so,
yeah, I did notice that, which is cool because it's a different take. If that is a Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I always like when they take something that we're familiar with and kind of give it a twist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really interested just to see how far they're going to take it. What we've found out is that he certainly is more than a match for Superman. I mean, that fight scene or scenes that took place all over the planet, throughout the city, in outer space, where this Captain Luthor ultimately stabs him, right, with that kryptonite. Definitely.
And that was
pretty powerful.
Yeah, it was, and I was surprised that it didn't kill him. I guess it was just enough to get rid of him for now, and not.
I thought that the timing was good. That Lois, I guess they've figured out a special device that Lois can flick. It's sort of like her panic button.
Okay, yeah.
And it was just enough to kind of get his attention and allow him to have enough energy to pull that spike out of him, that kryptonite spike out of him.
Yeah.
Kind of in the nick of time. Mm-hmm. I do like what Danny had mentioned, though, about that this could possibly be, the son of Lex. Right.
That's very interesting because then you could see, of course, if that's where it goes, son of Lex, Superboy, boom. And maybe that's how we get a Connor Kent out of this version, this story. I mean,
right.
Who knows?
That would be a really cool way to get Superboy into this whole thing.
I mean, and even though some people may not have enjoyed this episode, it's a lot of new shows get a lot of hate. Not even to say that it's hate, but just a lot of shows aren't so loved the first round. Like Supergirl kind of had that, and Batwoman had that. Every show, even Legends probably had it, but Legends was pretty awesome.
I'm going to just take a stand here and say that I really enjoyed the pilot. Mm-hmm. I thought that they did a great job. It was almost like watching more of a movie than it was a TV show, right? And I think part of it was owed to the 90-minute episode as opposed to the regular hour. But I really did think, they had gotten into character. They had a reason for them being in Smallville. I think they've introduced a great kind of a new take on a classic villain. And I think that that they've showed us that there is this internal conflict that's
Right.
happening even within the vulnerability of Superman, not being his kryptonite, but just being that there are still struggles that he deals with, especially as being a husband and a father.
There's a lot of depth to these characters, and
Yeah,
I think it's a really good Lois Lane. I'm glad to like see more of her, other than what little bit we saw in Crisis and everything.
yeah,
And I noticed that they mentioned Pete Ross, which from Smallville we all knew the character, and he was I believe he was in the comics, very like mentioned at least. And it's kind of I noticed they didn't show him. You don't see Pete, but you hear his name, so it makes me wonder who comes in as Pete Ross.
right. I mean, I think that the truth is this is just the pilot.
Hmm.
They can't literally give us every
Right,
single person. I mean, it would just be complete overload. But
right.
no, I agree. I like the job that Bitsy Tulloch did in portraying Lois Lane. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think that she has that toughness. There's that there is that that point where she is literally kind of standing between her father and between uh, Superman, and she is like saying, "No, you're not going to leave. Your mother just died today. We just had her funeral. Your family needs you now."
Yeah,
Right? And I feel like she has definitely reminded us that though she has no powers, she certainly is a force to be reckoned with, and I like that about her.
and I like yeah, it's interesting to see where she goes now that she's no longer a reporter, because that's what we know with Lois Lane. Oh, she's a reporter, and she's kind of not crazy, but she'll get what she wants. Like as far as
Right,
she'll get to the bottom of everything, and
right,
then she's really a force, like you said.
right. Well, and
And
yeah, I think
now that
we've
she doesn't have that, it's going to be kind of cool to see where she does go and what she does do.
I really feel like Lois is going to become a lot like Aaron Brockovich. Did you ever watch
Yeah,
Aaron Brockovich? I really feel that sort of investigative reporter. I don't think she's going to stop that, but I think she's already kind of smelled just something funky in the air with regards to these reverse mortgages, people losing
right.
their farms and their livelihoods, and you know, all to this major corporation. I think there's certainly more going on with that, and
Hmm.
she's going to be, I think, really spearheading getting into that, probably getting herself in more trouble than she realizes.
Yeah, because Superman's going to need somebody to save.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and she's always available. Though I feel like on the home front, um, you know, he's going to have his hands full between his
mhm,
sons and his wife, right?
absolutely, yeah. I wonder if he's gonna start working at the old like coffee shop or something. No, it's not teenage Clark Kent here, but still, I really think that and I hope they put a lot of Smallville Easter eggs. Not like over the top to go, haha, remember Smallville? Look, but little subtle Smallville references.
It shouldn't. I don't think it would be a surprise for them to do that. I think
No, I don't think
they've
so.
shown a real cleverness in leaving Easter eggs
Mhm.
for us. I think because they know that
Yeah,
fans like us kind of like it when they do that.
and the one main Easter egg reference that wasn't really very hidden, it was kind of in your face, was at the very beginning of the episode where you see the classic comic book Superman suit that he's wearing. Like, wow, that really surprised me. I had no idea they were going to do that.
Right.
It never crossed my mind that
that
they
that
would think
rather
that.
that rather hilarious scene when Superman catches that car and saves the boy,
Hmm.
and the boy's hat comes off and the kid's like, cool costume. And
Yep.
this is the classic one where his underwear are on the outside of
Hmm.
his clothes. um, and I always thought, he says, thanks, my mom made it for me, and I thought, You really, your mother made you a costume with your underwear on the outside of your clothes?
Yeah, like what mother would be so
I don't know.
irresponsible?
I mean, maybe it was fashionable in Krypton, but
Maybe.
not typically here in the United States. But I did think
No.
that was hilarious. You will notice though on the new uniform, the underwear is on the inside, right?
Right.
They've certainly ditched that. So
It was just kind of interesting though that they went for that. And it was almost like exact to the comics.
right,
The very different S in the shield. Oh, I loved it. And now I want to go back and rewatch to see if there's any other little like moments or little things.
yeah.
And I'm sure there probably are.
I will say that I've watched it. I've watched it 3 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I watched it 3 times, and I just like I don't read a book over again unless it's worth reading over again,
Hmm.
and it's the same thing with TV shows, right? That if it's boring the first time, I'm not going to go back and watch it again. But I do feel like there is, I do believe that there is enough substance here that really validates this show. I think in some ways, partly because we've been without a Superman TV
Yeah.
show standalone for quite a while, and
Since yeah.
I think that void has been obvious, and I'm excited that we finally get that finally here in this show.
Yeah, it's been 10 years since we've had an actual dedicated Superman show.
Right.
Because Smallville ended in 2011, I believe, and since then there hasn't been anything else. I mean, Supergirl, to its credit, I don't want to take away from that, but as far as the Superman character being the main focus, so yeah, and it's really interesting to see. I'm hoping that they're going to do more than just the whole like, oh, we're living on the farm, it's the family thing. I do hope they include a lot of maybe, like I said before, a lot of references or a lot of crossovers, or maybe just more Superman villains, since it has been a while. And then even on Smallville, we didn't really see Superman villains that much. So I would love to see, like, of course, a Lex Luthor and a Kryptonite suit and like the whole let's fight kind of thing, and all the other DC villains that we never have seen on TV before.
Right. Well, again, I really do think that even though they are leaving Metropolis and living in Smallville, Superman is still has a responsibility to the world, right? In this episode, we see him, going to nuclear power plants and saving them and getting into major battles and fights. So clearly, we know that Superman in his role as a hero isn't going to be just limited to Smallville. So
Right.
I think that's a good thing, and that really does open us up to a lot of possibilities about people that he's going to interact with.
Absolutely.
I think what we're going to find out, though, is that sometimes we have this idea that in sleepy little farm towns, nothing happens. And I think what we're going to find out is that there's going to be just as much drama and challenge in Smallville as there ever was in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited because, what is it? Really just 2 days from now. Or really less than 2 days now at this point, less than 48 hours or
Yeah.
47 hours. 47 hours away from
You've really calculated
Flash.
this, huh?
Yeah, I'm just we've been waiting 16 years to watch the Flash again.
Yeah. Oh, that's
like
right.
He's gonna have a big beard. Yeah, this Tuesday.
This Tuesday is the Flash. All right.
Yeah. And it's going to be Flash at 8 p.m. and then at 9 p.m. you're going to get Superman and Lois.
Yeah, I feel like I've gone from going through my every possible recording of old episodes that I can to watch superhero shows, and now slowly my DVR is filling up again. I guess it's a good problem to have, but I think I'm going to start running out of time, time in my day to keep up with all of it.
Yeah, I'm still busy going back to between Peacock and HBO Max watching old sitcoms for nostalgic reasons and everything. Like I just finished, I don't know if a lot of people out there are going to remember, but I definitely remembered it. The sitcom from the late 80s, Punky Brewster.
Oh yeah, gosh.
I mean, I tell some people, they're like, who, what? But they just did on the Peacock, NBC streaming service. They have a revival of Punky Brewster, where she's like in her 40s, living and having her own family, and it's very interesting. I just finished it today, 10 episodes, and I think it's a 30-minute episode, and it goes on and into that whole story, and it's like this character like 30 something years later. And once I finished it, I went back to the original 80s show and started watching it tonight, and it's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a fan of the original show, then this one is pretty good, I think.
I liked Soleil Moon Frye, right? I
Yeah.
thought, and again, that show was on the air in the 80s when I was growing up. So I think that it was. I think what's interesting that I've seen them do a lot is seeing a lot of these shows playing on our nostalgia, right? Whether it
Yes.
is Fuller House, whether it is Saved by the Bell, whether it's Cobra Kai, or now Punky Brewster. I think that what we definitely have seen this pattern of going and taking old shows, dusting them off, and kind of rebranding them for a modern audience, or telling us the rest of the story. I think that is kind of a neat thing.
It is, and I've noticed that with a lot of other shows. Like they're starting, and like you said, everybody's doing this now. And let's see, what was this? Oh yeah, they better thank Cobra Kai for paving the way.
Right.
I mean, Cobra Kai is like one of the. I mean, Fuller House came a little bit. Well, no, Fuller House. See, I keep thinking that Cobra Kai is newer than it is when it's not, because we forget that the first 2 seasons were on YouTube way back.
Yeah.
And so that really probably did come out right before Fuller House, I would imagine. But still, I mean, it's like all these shows are coming out, and it's like, is it the 90s or is it the 80s or is it 2021? I don't know anymore, because all these shows are on TV. Or not TV, but what's become the new TV.
Right. But I think it does give us opportunities to kind of geek out all over again, right? What? Even MacGyver, right? Like MacGyver was a show that I watched. I almost idolized as a kid, and they have the same thing. That they still have MacGyver, but it's now MacGyver's son, right? Or actually, it's actual MacGyver with just a different actor. But we see a lot of this happening all the time, even with like Walker Texas Ranger, right?
That's what I was going to say, like the new Walker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long has that guy been on CW now? Jeez.
I know.
Like 72 years?
I know.
I mean.
Yeah, it was like he literally jumped right from Supernatural right over,
Right over. I mean, he's been on there since 2000, was it 8 or 9 when that show first started? And then
it was hilarious because he was such a baby. I joke that both that both of them, Jared and Jason Ackles, that they looked like such little kids when they first began. And by the end, they're geriatric, But it's crazy to watch all of that. I think that we would be doing ourselves a disservice, though, if we didn't talk a little bit about Batwoman.
Yeah.
Have you been keeping up with Batwoman?
I have been. I was behind a couple of episodes, and then this past Sunday, like a week ago, I guess it was on Monday last week, when I watched and kept up, got up to speed on the last 2 episodes, and not including tonight's episode that just went off the air for me. So I usually catch Batwoman on Monday nights on CW or on the CW app, but I've kept up, and I think it's getting really good. I mean, I'm a lot happier with this show at this point in the season compared to the first season at this point.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really divisive. If people have their favorites, right? And some people really liked Ruby Rose and the part that she played. And I think that in some ways she is an icon
Yeah,
for certain people, and understandably so. Um, they didn't make her the paragon of courage for nothing. Um, and yet at the same time, I think that we do need to give, Javicia Leslie and her portrayal of Ryan Wilder, we do need to give
yeah,
her every opportunity to take on the character and run with it, right?
absolutely. I really
So
love what she's doing so far with that character.
I do too. I do too.
It's different but the same. I mean, it's like a tough woman who's like not afraid to like step out there and like, stand up and fight for what's right and all this. But in a lot of ways, they're completely different people.
I think that we certainly see a very, she certainly comes from a different kind of upbringing, right?
Mhm.
Um, More, she understands poverty. She understands the challenges of the streets, and I think that she really has known struggle. And I think that the episode where we had found out that she had been kidnapped and held prisoner,
Yeah,
and I thought for me that was a really powerful episode.
it
Uh,
was. Yeah.
it just let me realize just that she had experienced, really true suffering. And at the
Mhm.
same time, I also realized that what she had experienced was exactly like what Beth had experienced, right?
Those writers are smart.
They really are. I feel like just as much as they've pitted, Alice and Ryan against each other, um, I think that they have some things in common that
Yeah,
may
I'm the
end up
same.
helping them to bridge that a little bit.
And
So,
see, it seems like they're going in that direction, like I was predicting. I thought, well, it's not really gotten to that point yet, but I predicted early on before the season premiere that Alice would kind of turn good. And it seems like they're doing that. I don't
yeah,
know. I'm not trying to like say, haha, I told you so. But like, it's
yeah,
interesting because even if they do that, I don't think it's going to last. I think it's going to turn and it'd be one of those like bait and switch type of things. I think.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know as if necessarily I want a good Alice. I like her
Yeah.
being dark. I like her being twisted.
Yeah.
I like her being unpredictable, a lot like the Joker, right?
Yeah. And it's like,
Or
a
maybe,
fair Joker, basically.
yeah. Do you think that she's Joker, or that she's more kind of Harley Quinnish?
I think it's a little bit of both,
A little bit of
honestly. I
both,
mean, yeah, because she's got obviously she looks more like a Harley Quinn than a Joker,
right?
but she does act more kind of crazy,
Yeah.
and so
I
it's
I
like,
will really
yeah,
say that Alice is hands down my favorite character on that show.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
at this point she definitely is for me too. I mean, because like she's done so much. She's you can kind of feel sympathy for her, but at the same time, it's like you killed people. How you love to hate her, but you also like kind of root for her at the same time. It's really weird,
right. I mean,
and I don't
yeah,
know.
I have real sympathy for her. I
Hmm.
mean, she does have a truly tragic story. She is who she is for a reason, that because the people that claim to love her and care about her, they gave up looking for her. And I think there was something very soul crushing and defeating when she
Hmm.
realized that. Um, you know that whole thing about how monsters aren't born, they're made,
Right.
right? If Alice is a monster, she's a monster um, because she felt truly abandoned,
Hmm.
even by the people who claim to love her. That doesn't
Yeah.
forgive her being a monster. It doesn't forgive her um, in doing all these terrible things,
No,
but it
because I
does
think
help to explain it.
because she knew it's not like, oh, I was trained to kill people. No. I'm really getting more into Batman too. I mean, like the whole Batman world. I was watching. I don't know if I mentioned this before last week, but I was watching. I watched Batman, of course, and then Batman Returns,
Okay,
and
so
I
you're
started
talking
watching
about
Batman Forever.
right.
The
You're talking
original,
about the original Michael Keaton.
yeah, and that was cool. I don't know if I mentioned this on another episode or not, but I just got this the other day. It's a Batman Batarang replica, which is a plastic thing, you know, but it's really cool. I would pull it out, but it's on my refrigerator. It has magnets that it kind of folds in place, and then you can pop it out, and the joints are magnets. And so I just stuck it on the fridge, and it sticks. So I think that's kind of cool.
Nice
artwork.
Is that available at Walmart, Stephen?
Yeah, it's a Walmart exclusive, actually. So you can go there right now.
I'm sure that you could hook us up with a discount.
Maybe. Like I could save you a mad 30 cents, maybe.
Right.
I mean, but I just thought that was kind of cool.
It is. Please tell me, though, that you're not running around in spandex throwing that around in the streets.
No, I have to grab it real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
No, even if I wanted to grab it, this little piece of plastic wouldn't really do any damage. The little blades, they look nice. It's painted plastic, but they're pretty sharp. You could probably cut someone and pour sanitizer in the cut and really make them have a bad day.
Right, lemon juice, jalapenos. I will say that if I were to go and use that thing, I would. Oh, it folds out too.
Yeah, it folds. So you could like put it in your pocket.
Okay.
And be like, hey, I'm Batman.
Right, it's sort of like a Batman switchblade.
Sort of. I mean, it doesn't really trying to like find out where to hold it. It's so dark you can't really see it, but it's kind of nice. It's a nice size. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm certain, however, that I would probably do more damage to myself than anyone else if I tried to throw that thing.
Because I tried to throw it, like not actually throw it, but kind of like hold it, and it keeps falling. The little hinge keeps falling back. So maybe they made it weak enough to where you can't actually throw it at someone.
Right.
If you hold it the other way, it still kind of. You could just take it and just chuck it at somebody, you know.
Right.
Like
it's a safety feature. It's a safety feature.
Because you can take an eye out with these little tips.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty sharp. I mean, they're plastic, but they're still pretty sharp. This looks really cool this way, too, you know. It's almost perfect to, like, well, maybe not quite gouge an eye, but you can, you know, adjust it and really get somebody with it. I'm sitting here, we're talking about Batwoman, and it turns into how many people can I kill with this plastic toy?
Right. I think everyone that's watching this right now is very concerned about Steven's mental health.
Everybody's unsubscribing.
Right. All 5 of them. All 5 of them are leaving.
I've turned into Alice.
I know. Well, we said a long time ago this show was cheap therapy, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, you're getting your money's worth at this point.
Yeah, and this, including this, with the $14, replica.
Okay, anyway. So back to the point. You had said that you were watching the classic, Michael Keaton Batman, and then you watched the Val Kilmer Batman.
I've started that one. I haven't finished it yet. Because they're all the original 4 films are on HBO Max right now. So you've got Batman and Batman Returns, who are both Michael Keaton, and then Batman Forever, which was Val Kilmer, and then Batman and Robin, the one and only time we see George Clooney as Batman, which that's where it gets kind of strange. I mean, nipples on a why? That's all I'll say.
Well, what if he wants to nurse? I mean, never know. You never know when you rescue a baby, you might need to lactate, right? And it was just very, very forward thinking, right?
I mean, Batman has all the other gadgets. He may as well.
Plus, they were going up against, Mr. Freeze.
Hashtag Nippleman. I mean,
Nippleman, absolutely. No, they were going up against Mr. Freeze. Clearly, it was very, very cold, even in that suit.
Hey, that's true. And then they had those little ice skates in their boots ready to go as well. Like, oh no, Batman, what are we gonna do? The roads are frozen. We didn't prepare for this. Don't worry, Robin. We both have blades in our feet that we can just skate on. Oh, now we're master ice skaters. Yay!
Right.
I was talking to my uncle about this, and it kind of reminds me of the old Adam West series.
I'm so glad that you brought that up too.
Yeah. And it was just, they were so prepared for every little thing that could happen on that show.
I've got bat gas.
I've got this repellent, that repellent.
Right.
Like I have anti-dying sprays.
So I've got to ask you, did you ever watch a lot of the old Adam West Batman?
Yeah, I used to back in the like '90s when they would show. I don't know what channel. It might have been one of those like TV Land or something like that, where they would show old, obviously old reruns all day
So
long.
I've got a really weird story. When I was a kid, my parents had some business they had to take care of, and they left us, my brother and I, with a family friend, and they had a bunch of kids. But they were one of those families where they had a TV, but it was in a locked cabinet, literally with a
Okay,
lock on it. And the only time they unlocked that cabinet and let the kids watch TV was to go and watch the old classic Batman and
nice.
Robin TV show. And I had never watched it up until that point. Um, I think, but I became a fan
Mhm.
after that experience. And I remember my brother and I going and watching that all the time. And in some ways, it was so over the top,
Yeah,
ridiculous, corny.
very cartoony.
Even their
Yeah.
weapons that were obviously made of plastic or rubber. And on the other side of it, I think that I liked that it didn't take itself too seriously, right?
Mhm.
Um, that I think it was still fun. It still kind of captured that excitement of just the fact that you get to watch a superhero.
Yeah.
Uh, that was something that I enjoyed, and I think that Adam West did a great job of at least giving us our first taste of the Cape Crusader.
Yeah, and it was meant to become comedic, I guess, and I kind of started thinking about the Adam West Batman mostly because I was with my not with my uncle, but we were talking, uh, and we were thinking like, who was your favorite Joker? Somebody asked the question, who's the favorite Joker? My immediate response was, Mark Hamill. Even though you can't count him as a live action Joker, he still counts as a Joker to me. Um, and of course, my uncle said Cesar Romero was his favorite Joker, which from Adam West. And that's something I never knew. A small little bit of trivia is that he had a mustache the entire time. Never knew that. They painted over the mustache.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I
Huh.
looked closer later and I was like, he did have a mustache.
So I liked Cesar Romero's portrayal of the Joker. I will say, however, that much like the way that I see, um, the classic Adam West. Yes, Danny, I
Heath Ledger.
agree. I agree that when I close my eyes and when I think of the Joker, I really can't think of anybody better who encapsulates the character than Heath Ledger. Slightly beneath Heath Ledger's Joker is Jack Nicholson, right? I think
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson's Joker is great, um, and I think on the very creepy level, I think the Joker that we had seen portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix,
I did
uh,
like that Joker.
yeah, or uh, I think that one was also an interesting take on the character too. Um,
Absolutely.
you had brought up though Mark Hamill, right?
Mhm.
And while he voiced the animated version, he also played I think the CW version of the Joker with the Trickster, right?
Yeah. Especially in his second appearance from Earth 2, I think it was. Or was it Earth 3? I can't remember. There's Earth 2, I think. It was the first time Barry and Cisco go with Wells to Earth 2, and you see the trickster again, and there he is, and he looks more Joker. He has that like purple suit with a
Right.
flower in the pocket, not green hair, but it's more of a purple, but it was as close as the Joker as they're ever going to get without actually saying he is the Joker. And that
Yeah.
was great. I
Yeah.
love
I think that I like it. I'm rather biased towards Mark Hamill simply
mhm.
because I'm a big, Star Trek, not Star Trek. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Uh, I know I blasphemed. I Star Wars fan, and so I like Mark Hamill from Star Wars, but
Mhm.
I'll get him in any way, shape, or form I can when
Right.
he comes out. Um, so I will say, however, that when it comes to Batman, my favorite version of Batman has always been Christian Bale. I
Okay.
think that Christian Bale has did a fantastic job, and I liked the more realistic portrayal of Batman in the
Yeah.
Batman Begins, that trilogy that they
Mhm.
put in there. Um, I think that Ben Affleck has done a decent job with the character.
Yeah.
You
Nowhere
know,
near as bad as everybody thought, I don't think.
no, I think that it certainly not as bad as people thought. He's sort of kind of middle of the road, I think, for me.
Yeah.
He's better than Kilmer, not as good as Keaton. That's kind of how
Mhm.
I have him rated. Maybe like number 3 on my
Yeah.
list.
I would say top three.
What is yours?
I guess my number one, I would still have to be Mark Hamill, probably just because of the voice alone.
No, I mean
Um,
for Batman.
oh, Batman. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back to Joker. Um,
you got Joker on the brain.
yeah, I got these evil characters. First, I want to
Yeah,
kill people with a
oh
plastic
my
toy,
gosh,
and now I'm talking about the Joker. As
you
far as
need help.
Batman, I want to. Wow, that's tough. Um, I guess the first one I knew was Michael Keaton, but it was weird for me when Val Kilmer became Batman because I was really confused. Is this the same guy? Is it not? And then George Clooney. It's sad to say that the one I remember most is George Clooney,
Oh,
but I don't like it the
that
most.
was the worst, the
I don't like it the
absolute
most, but that's who I remember
worst.
because Batman originally is 1989. I was 3 years old when that movie released, so I
Right.
don't remember much of it from its original run. And then Batman Returns, I remember a little bit because Danny DeVito was there, and I thought that was cool and everything. But it wasn't until probably Val Kilmer that I started saying, "Oh, okay." And I think Val Kilmer by far is better than George Clooney.
Oh, absolutely.
But as far as like a top three, oh man, I would say Christian Bale probably would be the best. I mean, I want to say somebody else because everybody's like Christian Bale, and I'm like, but he really is. I think the best overall, rounded out like good Batman. And second, maybe Ben Affleck because honestly, well, maybe not Ben Affleck. It'd be kind of a tie. I would agree mostly with what you said, but I haven't really looked at a lot of Batmans. Adam West, number one. I mean, no. But no, yeah, I think it'd be Christian Bale, and I think Ben Affleck would be in the top three there. I don't know who would be a second or a third, tied with that, but I was really surprised with Ben Affleck. I think everybody thought it was going to be stupid and whiny and goofy or whatever, but he kind of came off as a decent older Batman.
Yeah, I think he's done a respectable job, and when you consider just like how many Supermen we've had, right? There have been so many people that have worn the cowl. How do you possibly go and distinguish yourself?
I kind of agree with Danny here. Affleck, Bale, and Conroy. Maybe not that order, but those three names as far as the top three Batmen for me.
Right.
If we're going
Yeah.
on with and live action.
Yeah. I still feel like Affleck is in my top 3, and Bale is certainly in my number 1. But hey, people have the right to be wrong, so
Yeah,
that's
they
fine.
do. I mean, who's to say what next Batman we're gonna have? Because what a lot of people call Sparkles Batman or Batman Sparkles. We have the new Batman, the
Right.
Batman coming
Right.
up,
Yes.
and from the looks of it, he looks great as Batman. I can't say anything about like what he sounds like as Batman. I think we saw a few pictures of him as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. He's a considerably younger Batman than what we've seen in movies. So it's kind of interesting to see how they go with it. Is it connected to anything else?
Right. No, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see Robert Pattinson in that role, and I feel like it's been so long since they've talked about him in this movie. I think I had worried that they had just totally, ditched the idea.
They just changed their mind. Yeah, we're not going to do this
Right.
anymore.
How often do we hear that where it's sort of like there's
Yeah.
rumors that things are happening and then something happens and it just kind of falls apart?
I mean,
So
the movie was supposed to have happened, I think, 2 years ago,
right,
and
I know
then
that
it's going to be 2022.
yeah, I know that COVID has not been good
Yeah,
for the movie industry. Absolutely.
I mean, at least now shows are getting going again, and I just saw, oh, what was it? I saw a picture on Twitter or something about a script. They just the front page of a script. It was season 4. I think it was. Oh gosh, what was it? Maybe it was Titans season 4 that they were filming, and then somebody teased like the front page of the script or something. I can't remember, but so many shows are like in production right now and working, and it's like, ooh, I'm excited. And I was, of course, I'm probably the bigger Kevin Smith fan on this show, but I just saw where they announced, and I knew they were working on a Clerks 3 film, but he says late spring, early summer they're going to start rolling cameras on that movie. So I mean, it's good. It's kind of nice to look around and see all this TV and film being made. And I know, yeah, COVID's still lingering around, but it's almost like a light at the end of the tunnel in a sense.
Yeah,
Like you see all these things happening that you haven't seen happen in a year.
I think what it definitely means is that you and I are going to have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on, and
Right.
sporting events are starting to have fans. I don't really watch sports a lot. I like sports. I just haven't really followed it much lately. But the Super Bowl apparently had actual fans in the audience.
There were
Instead
I
of,
think there were like 25,000, which
yeah.
Super Bowl wise is a very minuscule number of people,
Mhm.
but it's certainly more than they've had during COVID. I
Yeah.
think that even here in California, where we've experienced some of the highest counts of infection and everything else, and spread, we are seeing our numbers dropping. More people are getting vaccinated. In
Mhm.
fact, my mom and dad have received their second dose, and so next weekend we're going to be going and seeing them for my dad's 71st birthday, and
Awesome.
I'm going to give my mom a hug. And so something I
Without the
have not
blanket, right?
without the blanket. Yeah, we're going to ditch the blanket. I'm going to
Awesome.
give her the biggest, longest hug she's ever had. Um, and so if that alone isn't enough reason to have some hope, I'm
Mhm.
hoping to get the jab here soon. I know that as an educator, the tier for educators has recently opened here as well, and so um, I'm hoping to get that set up here in the next couple days. So, yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Danny,
happy
for
birthday.
my dad. That is it's a big one, and considering
Yeah.
the health issues that he's been dealing with, the fact that he gets to celebrate 71 years on this earth, it is a big deal. Um, and so I'm glad that we get to celebrate that, and finally, though we're still going to social distance, and we're still
Mhm.
going to wear masks, we're still going to be safe. Um, but the idea that at least we don't need to be fearful. I
Right.
think that is the most important thing, um, that we can spend time with them and make that the most of it. I think that's something that's important for us. So
Absolutely. And I'm just seeing in businesses and things like that opening more up all across the country. And I mean, here they just now. I'm not even a drinker really, but the bars situation, like they were finally allowing bars. I think effective yesterday to open up to have people come inside and drink. Which to me, it doesn't matter either way. For the business owners, I'm happy because now they're able to actually start making some more of that money again.
right,
Um, and I mean, they're still at 11 p.m. drinking curfew here, I think it is. But still, it's a step,
yeah,
and I think and so many more other businesses too, like maximum capacities or raising a little bit, and then Danny says here, open the movies, absolutely.
I will
Um,
I will say that two of the things that usually I was always doing were either going out to a restaurant and
mhm,
sitting down and just sharing a meal with my friends or with my family. That's one of those things that that I really miss, right? The not
Mhm.
being having to go and order and then eat it in your car, right?
Yeah.
Is just not the same. And here in California, I will say one of the just around the corner, the sushi place that we go to, we tend to go. They just opened indoor dining again.
Oh wow.
Now you can eat at the bar, and you don't have to worry about going outside. Um, Again, it's just one of those things where you don't realize just how much you've missed it until it's gone. And then I agree with Danny too, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that that being able to go to the movies. I mean, I know that Danny would go to the movies just about every single day if she could. But um, and that is something that I miss a lot too. Is just being able to.
Yeah, I do miss that. I mean, I think around here there might be some theaters opening up or have opened up already, and across the country there are some. But I mean, not everybody has that, and especially in the higher hit areas like California, New York, Florida, all these places. Hopefully, the movie industry. I mean, the movie industry will never die. Entertainment will never go away. Because we're always going to have streaming or home streaming or this or that. The theater industry, that might die out. But I think there's always going to be something there because
Right.
it's the experience of it being an event and going.
I think that definitely you're right. I don't think movies are going to die. I am concerned. It seemed like a lot of movie theaters, especially here, they had invested so much money in like literally building restaurants in their theaters where you can have food directed to you. And yeah, I do think that that the fact that there have been drive-in theaters that has helped out a whole lot in at least giving us a place to go. But I do wonder how a lot of these regular walk-in theaters with restaurants and everything else, um, if they're going to be able to bounce back.
Yeah. Hopefully they are. I mean, hopefully they'll be able to. And this is a good time for some of those restrictions to start lightening up because, financially for the businesses, because, people are getting their tax returns.
Yeah, absolutely.
And things are crazy. Of course, I've mentioned on here before that I work at Walmart, and yesterday was one of the busiest days I've seen since working there. It would
Right.
blew my mind. People everywhere. I work with like TVs and electronic things. At one point, I'm up at the front of the store ringing up produce. It's so busy. I'm like, I don't want to do that, but it's kind of one of those things you have to do in that kind of world.
Yeah.
But people are spending money more now, I think,
Oh yeah.
which is good, I guess. Maybe bad, but mostly good, I think.
I think if they're spending money, it means that they're much less worried about having to save it for later.
Yeah,
Right?
which it
I
can
mean,
be a good sign or bad. It could be a
well, I
sign of
mean,
irresponsibility, but
yeah, we've all seen that happen before. But I
Mhm.
do think, my wife and I, we've been very conservative with our spending just because we didn't know how long this COVID thing was going to last, right? And so, we
Mhm.
really watched our pennies and, tried to be, even though we bought a house, we still worked at
Yeah,
trying to make sure that we didn't make any other extravagant purchases, even if we had the funds to do it. So, yeah, I guess if there's a word that I have for things, I am becoming a little bit more optimistic, and
hmm
I'm having some more hope that things are getting better. I'm still not ready for kids to get thrown back in the classroom yet. Um,
yeah. That's a
and,
big
and
issue here. I
it is.
mean, big debate.
I want kids back in the classroom, and I believe that that's where they should be. But I also believe that should only happen when it's safe. And right
hmm
now, until all staff can be vaccinated,
Yeah,
but there are some people who make it sound like they want to send teachers back to the classroom before they've been vaccinated. I'm like, that's just foolish. Like
and yeah. What do you do too when, like, say, half of the faculty says, "I'm not getting vaccinated,"
yeah,
and and they don't require it? If they don't require, I don't know what the requirements are on that, but what do you do in that case? I think they said like about, I don't want to quote numbers, but I think I heard somewhere like 40 to 50% of the Marines or anyone like servicemen and women didn't want to take the vaccine.
right.
So it's like, what do you really do then? Like, I mean, you can't force it, I guess, but it's still.
You can't. I think that while they will go short of it being a government mandate, I think that there will be expectations that if you want to work, then you're going to, especially if you want to work with kids,
Yeah,
you're going to have to, bite the bullet and get the vaccine. Just like if you want to have, I'm sure at some point it will be that if you want to have your kid enrolled in school, they're going to have to show their vaccination record.
Yeah, and a lot of people make a big fuss about that, but it's like how many, there are several vaccinations that are pretty much mandatory in school systems across the country, and those are no big deal. They're like, oh, okay, and then some of them are like, no, we don't want that, but we'll have to, so we'll do it. But they're not. They're fighting this one so much more. It's like, why is this vaccine any different? This one doesn't have a microchip any more than that one did. So I mean, 5G isn't controlling your brain or anything. Sorry,
right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly the reason why. I think perhaps part of it is the polarization that the coronavirus has been, politicized. I think in many ways, and that could be part of the reason. There are certain groups of people that have an inherent distrust in vaccinations.
Yeah,
and I understand that as well. I think it's why I am so glad that there have been a number of people who have used their celebrity status in order to show themselves getting the vaccine. Right? I think the more that gets out that I got the vaccine and I'm not, turning into a zombie. I think that the more we get that out, the more people realize that it's safe and they're not getting the coronavirus, and it allows them to, resume life as normal. I do think that ultimately that's going to help more people make the right choice, I think, to get the vaccine.
Right. I think so. That went from a good range of topics. We went from,
I think so too. We
Superman and Lois all the way to vaccines. So.
I know. Hey, I'm really looking forward to this week. Tonight,
Flash.
Flash on Tuesday, and
Tuesday
then
night.
And then Superman and Lois, and tonight with Batwoman. Is there any other shows that we're missing?
I'm sure there probably are.
Okay, I'm sure that it will come to us.
And I know Stargirl doesn't come back on. It's a summer series, and then Legends will come back at some point, but that's going to be probably spring or fall, or not, maybe fall. I don't know, but yeah, it's coming.
All right, so I am looking forward to having the Flash conversation with you, though.
Oh gosh, hopefully there's no time travel in the first episode because I mean, but you can follow Mark Guggenheim on Twitter.
You should if you aren't already.
Yes, absolutely. Follow him on Twitter, and everybody else in the world. Follow everyone on Twitter.
And follow our podcast if you haven't already.
Yeah,
both Steven and I are on Twitter.
Yeah, and I need to get the Twitters on here next time and get them up there. Have them ready to go and
might as well represent and get the word out, right?
Yeah, I mean, let it grow.
Yes,
and I promise, I will not actually use this as a weapon.
I'm so glad. I was really worried for you for a second that you're gonna come by. Next episode, you're gonna have like an eye patch.
Yeah, an eye patch, and
you're gonna look like you're cosplaying Slade Wilson.
Yeah, I'll be Slade Wilson with the whole. Might as well go the whole way.
Shoot your eye out.
I won't shoot my eye out, and as soon as I throw it, it comes back and hits my eye out.
Right.
Or maybe by then it'll still be jammed in there. It'll be hanging out of here by the end of the show. Like
it would be a good look. It would be a really good look.
Or maybe over here. Did you see Flash last week? Oh yeah, I'm kind of crazy.
I know. Well, hey, let's quit while we're ahead.
Yeah.
Hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday.
You too. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then. You too.
All right.
See ya.